Hey guys, what's up? It's Alec Torelli here from Conscious Poker, and I know the question on many people's minds is whether or not the 2020 World Series of Poker will end up being canceled or at least postponed due to coronavirus. But before we engage in a conversation about canceling the 2020 WSOP, it's imperative that we're all on the same page about the potential risks of coronavirus, and I implore you to watch my most recent video or read the most recent article on the subject, which is 3 ways which coronavirus will disrupt the poker industry, as I detailed many of the facts, all from reputable sources, in that piece and that video. You could find it all at the link below. That said, to get everyone up to speed, here are the TLDR facts you need to know before moving onwards. The first is that exponential growth of COVID-19 means leading experts believe 20 to 60% of the worldwide adult population will end up contracting the disease. Second, the US is at risk of having hundreds of thousands of cases in the next several months, and this is regardless of whether or not they are actually diagnosed due to a lack of testing. In fact, it's already suspected this is happening in Ohio. Third, experts believe COVID-19 won't necessarily go away in the summer months. Fourth, with reliable data coming out of Italy, an alarming rate of cases require hospitalization, lasting an average of about a month, making the spread of COVID-19 completely unsustainable on worldwide healthcare systems. I know many people blame this on Italy having an aging population, and while I agree that could play a part, it can really hit anyone. Case number 1 in Italy, for example, was a 38-year-old marathon running soccer player who was hospitalized for a month. Fifth, further burdening our hospital systems will result in potentially turning patients away, thereby increasing death tolls and creating catastrophic nightmare scenarios. This is already being reported. Sixth, as reported in The Atlantic, social distancing is the current most effective way to stop the spread of COVID-19 and a proven method that's used during pandemics. Also, and this is paramount, please understand again, the biggest risk of this is disruption of our healthcare system. What we must do is what's called flattening the curve, which means to slow the spread of the disease to not overburden the hospitals and the healthcare system. Seventh, finally, I'm at the heart of this outbreak here in Italy, as many of you know, and I can tell you with certainty that this is not the flu. The healthcare system is incredible here, some of the best I've experienced anywhere in the world, and even still, our hospitals are simply overrun. This is just not sustainable. All of these facts are linked again with reputable sources at the blog post below, along with much more information. I highly encourage you to check it out. All right, let's go. Discussions about the potential cancellation of the 2020 WSOP due to coronavirus began on Twitter, with professional poker players on both sides of the fence weighing in, arising in several bets being made. As of late February, the odds were between 20 to 1 and 12 to 1 of the WSOP being canceled due to COVID-19, putting the betting line somewhere between 5 and 8%. As of February 28th, the WSOP says, quote, they are currently monitoring COVID-19 developments and have no plans to cancel the WSOP. I believe the current betting line dramatically underestimates the true odds of the World Series of Poker being canceled. With so much still unknown, it's hard to put an exact line, but I'd put it upwards of 75%. Before I explain why, let me digress slightly before the naysayers ask me to put up money to back my claim. Personally, I'm uncomfortable taking a bet in which I would be aligning my financial interests with actively rooting for the spread of a threatening and deadly virus, which is the only reason why the WSOP would be canceled. As a professional risk taker, this pains me deeply, as I believe the discrepancy between the market price and the true odds, meaning there's an enormous potential for profit. While this is no judgment on anyone who did bet, it's just my personal stance on the subject. Some disagree, arguing that betting on an event which they cannot affect the outcome is fair game, or that betting on an event allows the public to see what the true odds are, thereby decentralizing the information. Morality is complex, and you'll have to decide which is right for you. That said, if you do print on this bet thanks to the information in this video, please direct my 3% finder's fee to the WHO or your local hospital to help offset the damage of COVID-19. With that aside, I believe the WSOP is likely to be canceled for 2 reasons. The first is outright risk, and the second is societal pressure. Either one of these alone could prove sufficient for the WSOP in 2020 to cancel, but the marriage of them together increases the odds dramatically. The first is outright risk, of not canceling the WSOP in 2020. Some have argued there's too much at stake for the WSOP to cancel some or all of their events. This is simply untrue. While there is great financial downside to not running the event, of course, that risk is dwarfed in comparison to the feeling of being held responsible for the transmission of a disease. Many believe we're already at that point, and event cancellations are increasing rapidly, and I believe they will so in the future, think the domino effect, as the number of cases inevitably increases, which will happen well in time for the WSOP to pull the trigger. The second is public pressure to cancel the event will increase dramatically. It's early March, and we're already seeing signs of this happening, with the recent suspension of sports leagues around the US. Also, major influencers such as Tim Ferriss, for example, have not only canceled their attendance to popular events like South by Southwest, but taken to Twitter and urged the mayor to cancel the event outright. A petition he put up got thousands of signatures. As the public sentiment shifts rapidly, which I believe it will, and proportionally to the number of cases and most importantly the burden on our healthcare system, it'll go from let's play poker to it's irresponsible to run this event. And decision makers will ultimately have to decide between short-term profits or risk losing favor with the public. They will increasingly choose the latter. After Tim Ferriss began raising awareness on the subject, people joined the rally and South by Southwest was eventually canceled. I know the WSOP is still several months away, but waiting till the last minute is not without consequences. This will compel responsible leaders into making a decision well ahead of time, making it almost impossible, in my opinion, that we'll be in a stable global climate to host such an event. I also think further case discoveries in the US are not required for the WSOP to cancel, although I believe they're inevitable, as it's a worldwide event pulling in people from 100 countries. If the virus spreads anywhere in which people typically come from, the WSOP is at high risk of cancellation. And banning people from individual countries seems arbitrary, complicated, and unlikely to substantially reduce risk, making cancellation or at least significant postponement the most likely outcome. If, by some miracle, the WSOP somehow does run, I believe the best case scenario is dramatically less turnout. This will further be exacerbated because people from other countries and even within the US will not want to travel, which is another activity along with, being locked inside a crowded poker room that people will view as the most risky and discretionary and therefore avoid unless mandatory. Poker doesn't really qualify. No matter how you cut the cards, this spells unfortunate disaster for the WSOP in the 2020 because of coronavirus. So how should major events like the WSOP respond? Should the WSOP be canceled because of COVID-19? I'd love your thoughts in a comment below. Before I state my opinion, let me reiterate that I benefit immensely every year from the WSOP. As a professional poker player, just like many of you, I derive massive amounts of expectation by attending. I also work with clients through private coaching, and my busiest time of the year is always during those summer months. In short, not attending the WSOP personally or having it canceled is going to cost me a fortune in lost revenue as well as missed opportunity. I want the poker community to know I'm speaking from a place of concern for the safety of not only the community, but society at large, and I believe we have a moral obligation to put that above our economic desires or hedonistic pleasures. That's why I'm putting my money where my mouth is and coming out in favor of canceling the WSOP. You can support this cause yourself by taking action and signing the petition at the link below or at change.org/cancel-WSOP. Also, in the spirit of that, as you may have noticed, I turned off all ads for this video. In poker, as in life, when you can't afford to lose, you don't play the game. Are we as a community who prides itself in calculating the odds and weighing the probabilities and making sound, logical bets based on expectation really going to go all in when the stakes are this high? It seems clear that putting thousands of people together from all over the world in a thriving environment for the spreading of a threatening disease is simply not a winning bet. I understand that this might not make me popular within the poker community, but as someone with an influence, I believe it's my responsibility to take a stand for what I believe is the right thing to do. That's what conscious poker is all about, making conscious decisions, even if they are the hard ones. And it's these where character is built and where they really define us the most. Please understand that this also is not an extreme response. It's what major developed countries around the world are doing. Not just China, but South Korea, Italy, Hong Kong, Macau, and others have all taken measures to limit social gatherings, and many implemented these measures with far less cases than we currently have in the US. I believe it's federal, state, and local government's job in the US to rise to the occasion and encourage everyone to do the same. One interesting thing is that when China had a mere 572 cases on January 22nd, they closed down Wuhan. They still exploded to nearly 100,000 cases. Imagine what that means for the US if we're holding conferences. The reason I'm confident saying the WSOP should at the very least be postponed is because there's no way, based on what we've seen in China, that we're back in a stable global climate in time for the WSOP to run. In China, it took months before the numbers diminished, and they took way more aggressive and immediate action than we're seeing in the US. With exponential spread and so few social distancing policies being enacted by the US, compared to China, where they basically banned people from leaving the home for 2 months, the US should expect at least the same outbreak, but honestly, likely, and it's tragic to say this, multiples of what we're seeing in China. Even President Trump, who many have criticized for initially downplaying the coronavirus, has come out advocating social distancing and avoiding large public gatherings. Is there really any room for doubt that hosting a poker tournament with thousands of people from all around the world, 100 countries, is somehow an exception to this rule? But I also believe we shouldn't wait or merely rely on governments. It's up to the individual event organizers to do the right thing and prevent the spread of COVID-19 at all costs. I'm asking for your support in urging the World Series of Poker, along with all other poker tours, to immediately cancel their events until the COVID-19 pandemic is fully under control and spread of the disease ceases to be an immediate threat to our healthcare systems worldwide. The time is really now. Not only are there thousands of people around the world who make their plans well in advance, but committing to postponing or moving the WSOP entirely online, for example, will give us options well in advance, resulting in the best turnout and is the best thing for the players. Furthermore, canceling the event now is what our society needs. I believe that large companies, just like governments, have an obligation to help spread awareness about the severity of COVID-19 with their actions. And if we start at the top with the WSOP, it will send the message to other poker tours and card rooms that the time is now to suspend all of their operations. I'm not alone here, guys. Legendary poker player and Hall of Famer Daniel Negreanu has come out and recently said all poker operators must stop. Please join us. Other conferences are already doing this, such as the massive gaming conference E3, which is held in June 9th in LA, well after the WSOP is set to start. If they don't respond appropriately, it's up to us to take a stand for what's right. We all have a voice. By voting not just with our words, but with our actions, we can do our part to effectively reduce the spread of this disease. If something changes by the time of the event, which I desperately hope it does, I reserve the right to change my position on this matter. That said, until further notice, I personally won't be attending any poker or other public events and avoiding all travel except in the event of an emergency. I urge others to consider doing the same. And given that I'm currently in the heart of the outbreak in Italy, since the first discovery of a case here in where I am in late February, both my wife and I have practiced extreme social distancing and avoided all contact with others. As an aside, the sooner you start, the better. Once the 14-day window has passed, you can resume seeing friends and family in small gatherings from other people who have also avoided social contact. In short, this is a small sacrifice to make for the safety of our society and respect for others who need care the most. If you're an influencer, I implore you to get as informed as possible and take a stand to help us fight the spread of coronavirus, not just within our community, but also beyond. Together, we can really make a difference. Finally, each one of us, regardless of whether we have 1 follower or 1 million, has a voice. There are a few things that you can do and join me and help make our world a safer place for everyone. First, get as informed as possible. Follow the WHO for what the latest updates are and what you can do to be prepared, as well as how to respond. And if you're in the US, look into the CDC as well. Second, you can take responsibility for your health and that of those around you and avoid large social gatherings. Limit all travel to what is absolutely necessary and avoid discretionary activities like card rooms. Lastly, please adhere to the advice of experts and practice social distancing to slow the spread. allowing time for our healthcare system to handle this burden and give priority to people who need care the most. This could be a great time to take up online poker. If that's not available in your area, why not study up so you're ready to crush the games when all this settles? With all that time at home, this is really the perfect opportunity to get into the lab and become that poker crusher that you know you're capable of being. Third, sign the petition to cancel the WSOP in 2020 at the link below or by visiting change.org/cancelWSOP. With this one action, we could potentially reduce the spread of thousands of infections. Fourth, stay positive. We've overcome wars and plagues and many other things. We'll get through this too. I know it. Like this video for the YouTube algorithm, it really helps so it gets shown to more people, and take direct action by sharing this with someone you know and that's someone you care about. Together, we can help get the word out there. Finally, subscribe to this channel. I'll do my best to continue bringing a mixture of entertaining content, especially at this time, and informative content as well, to keep your spirits up during this period. Let me know in the comments below, finally, what you'd like to see more of, content you'd like to see going forward, and I'll do my best. Of course, your thoughts on this matter would be greatly appreciated as well. Thank you so much for your attention. It means a lot. Much love to everyone out there. I hope we can spread more of that. This is not the time for partisan politics or blaming this group of people or this country or whatever. That's only going to divide us further. If this disease somehow had an agenda, that's exactly what it would want. Let us use this as an opportunity to come together and perhaps finally realize that we're all human and we all want and deserve the same things in life. Stay strong, everyone. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.